Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where experts in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest today, Sue Williams, is a doctor of quantum counselling and a clinical hypnotherapist, and the topic we'll be discussing is being stuck in your head and 5 pro tips how to break free. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Megan. It's great to be here again.
Sue, can you give us 5 tips on how to build mental resilience?
Certainly. The very first thing is to realise what it is that you need to overcome. So if I'm dealing with sports people, they will come to me and tell me, I have this absolute mental block. For example, a basketballer, I'm there doing the free throws, miss every time. This person has realised they have a problem. They know what it is, but they just don't know how to overcome it. So that's the first thing. You need to realise what that problem is so that you can actually go and change it. And then the second one is setting the goal for what you want to change. So it is a goal. In this example, the basketballer wants to get the correct mindset so that every time he's standing on the line, bounce, bounce, straight through. And just a tip that I give the basketballers, being very specific here, is imagine that hoop is this big. How can you miss? And that's part of the goal setting, because then you can visualise what that huge hoop is. So that's a really good tip, and you can customise that to anything that you want to change. And of course, when we're talking about visualisation, everyone has a different learning style. A lot of people are visual. Also, people are auditory. So that particular basketballer will need to hear what the coach is saying, so that he knows exactly where his hands are placed, where his feet need to be, so he's hearing it. And we call this mental rehearsal because that takes in all aspects of different ways of learning. Okay, and then we move on to the kinesthetic learners. And kinesthetic people feel things. So they do feel emotions. Emotions will control their thoughts, but also they have the feelings in their body. So with our basketball example, that particular player, to overcome these, the missing the hoop continuously, they may need their coach to set them up physically in front of the hoop, standing on that free throw line. So this is the way your body should be to give it that perfect arc. The ball goes straight through the hoop every time. So they get in position, and then they feel it through their body. They keep doing that, so that becomes their go-to position, and they know it's going to work. And then, of course, this is what we call mental rehearsal. And use that mental rehearsal to formulate your goals, and then proceed with your particular learning style to work towards those goals. Moving on from our goal setting, we've got our goal, we've done our mental rehearsal, worked out exactly what we do to achieve that goal based on our learning style. And then we set up this routine and we prepare, we set aside time, and then we use that routine to practice that mental rehearsal over and over again. And that's what will separate the elite athletes from the weekend warriors. So it's the practice, practice, practice. That's what they do. Our goals can just be so airy-fairy if we don't plan and do the practice. They won't be attainable if you don't put in the work. And to help us achieve our goals, what we can do to get into that zone, not necessarily the zone we use for competing, but the zone where our imagination is alive, where we are focused on what we're going to do in our routine that day, is to develop a breathing practice. And breathing is amazing for a number of reasons. we're concentrating on the breathing, but it's also enabling us physically to bring in the oxygen, oxygenate ourselves, so that if we're a sports person, for example, our muscles are going to work. They're going to be well oxygenated. The blood will be flowing because we're breathing the correct way. And we breathe in through our nose. We do that so that the air actually gets warmed before it reaches our lungs. We breathe deep down into our abdomen. And we can tell if we're shallow breathing because we'll begin. If we're breathing deeply, breathe down into the abdomen. That actually gives us room for the lungs to be drawn down so that they can really fill with the air. So breathing in, and as you breathe in through your nose, have your tongue against the roof of your mouth. And that, for whatever reason, makes this breathing so much more effective. I'm not sure of the physical reason, but I know it makes it very effective. Breathing all the way down into your abdomen so that the lungs can fill completely. Hold it and then out through the mouth.
Any advice for our viewers?
Find a professional in whatever area of life your goal is. So if, for example, like the sports people who come to me, if they're looking for help, they seek my help using hypnosis and also other modalities that I'm qualified in to assist them with their mental well-being and their physical well-being. But also, if you're not sure if you're a sports person, find a good coach who'll be able to get your body set up in the perfect way for your particular sport. And mental health professionals, if you've got something that's happening in your life that you need help with, go to the professional. Don't try and work out these tricky things by yourself, because you'll get stuck in that spiral, that vicious cycle where you just don't overcome it, and you're stuck. You've got that mental block. So find the relevant professional, always the first step, and then see what they can do to help you, and you may be able to move on and do something else, set another goal.
Thanks, Sue. That's such valuable information. If you'd like to know more about Sue Williams and how to build mental toughness and get unstuck, please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, urban food specialist Marc Noyce is talking about innovative systems that make gardening easier. Welcome back. Our second guest today is urban food specialist Marc Noyce, and the topic we'll be discussing is innovative systems that make gardening easier. Welcome, Marc.
Hi Megan, thank you very much for having me.
Gardening's come a long way. What are some of the latest trends?
Well, let's look at where gardening came from. Where we grew plants in broad acre farming, which we still do. We've been doing that for thousands of years, and it's got us to where we are today, which is fantastic. But most of our population lives in urban cities. We live near the coast, and we congregate in an urban jungle, basically, and we don't have access to those same broad acre farms. We're actually building over our traditional food bowls as fast as humanly possible. So here in Melbourne, for example, our food comes more than 100 kilometres from where we're sitting right now, every day of the week. So we've got to bring in food now from a long distance, and in some cases, some of our food travels thousands of kilometres to get to it. We call that food miles. What we're trying to do is turn food miles into food metres by growing our own food in our backyard or on our balcony. So food has come a long way in terms of how we grow. There are lots of different ways to grow food, and some of the challenges are, how do we do that in an urban environment?
Marc, you've talked about the Wiccan garden beds a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
So a Wiccan garden bed is not just like a garden bed in your backyard or a pot, for example. In your backyard, you might have a raised garden bed. It might just be at soil level where you grow some food. You put water on there, and quite often that water just goes straight through the garden bed, past the roots, and you're actually watering next door neighbour's trees instead. You put your nutrients on there. You buy some nutrients from the hardware store or the supermarket, and you pour those nutrients on, and they again go straight past your plants, your seedlings, and make your next door neighbour's trees look really fantastic. Gets into the groundwater and it's gone. In a pot, for example, where you pour water on there, it just goes down the sides and you think you've watered your pot, but if you actually break that apart, you'll find that it's really dry. And because when potting mix dries out, it doesn't attract water anymore. So what we want to do is we want to try to hold that water in the pot. So self-watering pots are just a really fantastic way of having a water reservoir in the bottom of the pot and allowing that water to rise up through the potting mix as the plant needs it 24/7. And we call that a wicking garden bed, where if you've ever had a dishcloth in water, you might notice that it rises up out of the water as it travels up the dishcloth. That's called capillary action. It's called wicking, and it's how water can travel up from a water reservoir up through the potting mix and then be available to the plant or the seedlings or whatever you're growing in there whenever that plant needs it. And it just does it naturally. So as it's being drawn up from the bottom through capillary action, a plant reaches down with its roots and sucks it up through suction. So when suction meets wicking, you've got a very happy plant. So a wicking garden bed is a containerised, sealed system that is perched above the water in the soil, so that we're holding that where the plants are for later. Because when it rains, we get a lot of excess rain in our urban environments, and a wicking garden bed captures that in its space for later reuse. So it's very climate adaptive. We can get through a lot of heat waves, and in some cases we can get our plants to survive for weeks at a time in the one containerised system. Let's look at a wicking garden bed. Its elements are: there's a sealed container, there's a water reservoir in the base, which is generally rock, then there's a geotextile layer to separate the rock and the water from the potting mix, then we put our potting mix on top, and then we plant in that, and the water wicks up through capillary action into the potting mix to allow the plants to grow. That's how a wicking garden bed works, or a self-watering pot plant works. There are some advances now where these wicking garden beds have a water reservoir with cones and an air gap between the water and the potting mix, so that we can have free draining and wicking at the same time, and that prevents root rot. You don't want root rot in a container because it goes pretty smelly actually. So by getting a little bit of oxygen, you allow the water to move up through the potting mix, you allow the potting mix to breathe, and I like oxygen and so do plants. So they like to breathe too. Allowing them to breathe gets it much healthier. Allowing the plants to breathe lets them grow more optimally. And so you're going to get the best out of your garden bed if you've got a wicking garden bed that can breathe.
That's fantastic information, Marc. So Marc, what's some advice for our audience in creating their own urban garden bed?
Megan, setting up your own urban garden is actually quite easy. With a wicking garden bed, for example, you can avoid losing all your water, you can avoid having roots come into it from your next door neighbour's trees. You can actually make it very ergonomic by getting it up off the ground and having that raised garden bed so that you're not bending and hurting your back when you're watering or tending to your garden. You can set up an urban farm really quickly these days by having a connectable modular garden bed system that takes the hard work out of gardening. Imagine coming home on a hot day and then you see your garden bed just wilting and dying because you haven't been there to water it. Well, a wicking garden bed solves that. A wicking garden bed gives the plants exactly what it needs 24/7. So certain types of plants can access water all the time versus others that don't like a lot of water can just take what they need, and just more comes up naturally through a weekend garden bed.
Wow, that's fantastic information there, Marc. Thank you. If you'd like to know more about Marc and the innovative systems that make gardening easier, go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and after the break we'll have another interesting guest and another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, NDIS business consultant and empowerment coach Jacqui Grant will be talking about the 3 easy steps to weight release. Welcome back. Our next guest today is Jacqui Grant. She is an NDIS business consultant and empowerment coach. And the topic we'll be discussing today is the 3 easy steps to weight release. Welcome, Jacqui.
Thanks for having me.
What are the 3 easy steps to weight release?
Well, that's a really good question. And before we get into the actual 3 easy steps, let's talk about the word release. Like most people say, isn't it weight loss? Now, there's the psychology behind it. If you think for a moment, I've lost my car keys, what do you naturally do? You naturally look for them, right? You go to find them, you want them back. But when you release something, you let it go. Go, I'm done. I don't need it anymore. So when it comes to weight, and we're often wanting to lose weight, don't we want to release it and let it go, and we don't want it back? So I use that word release a lot, and I thought if I just make it a little clearer, it should help for the rest of the tips, which are that you have to be in the right mindset and feeling vulnerable to lose the weight. So the first step being that you want to identify you're ready for change, that you're ready to feel vulnerable in letting go and making change. The next one is looking at your current habits. So what are you currently doing that's not working and that is working? Understanding that is where you can create change from, because often what we do is we just go ahead and go, oh, I need to change my food, I need to do this, I need to do that. You actually don't need to do anything. It's all a choice, which comes to the power of wordplay like release. And the next thing is taking it one step at a time. So once you identify what isn't working, where you're ready to create change, you choose one space, one thing that you're ready to change. If you go ahead and start exercising, if you go ahead and change your food habits, the likelihood of sticking with all of those big changes all at once is minimal, and you are going to have bigger setbacks. Taking it one step at a time helps you to feel empowered, helps you to build that confidence.
What's your experience with weight release? And out of the 3 steps, what's been the most challenging?
Hesitating here a little bit because it sounds unbelievable. I have let go of 114 kilos. So I, at one stage, was 168 kilos and my health was really suffering. I did have a health scare, which I sat there and I said, look, if I survive this, I will do whatever it takes to release the weight. So I did go ahead and see a bariatric surgeon, so a weight loss surgeon, and we'd found that my body, my stomach really wasn't working as effectively as it could have been. So to release weight was possibly something that wasn't going to happen just with dietary and exercise change. So I went ahead and had that surgery, but the biggest challenge for me was that mindset. So smaller stomach meant smaller food portions, which a lot of people do implement with their weight release, but looking at the food and thinking, yes, I can eat a dinner plate. No, I can't. I can't eat all of that. And understanding that this was a lifetime journey. So the changes I was going to make after that surgery, well, I actually started to make them beforehand, was this is for the rest of my life. This is a choice. Now, if my mindset was like, no, I can't do it, then of course I wasn't going to have success. Or if I focused on the failures of the past, I wasn't going to have success. So I developed a can-do mindset. So the mindset came in where it's like we're taking it one day at a time. We're putting in strategies of celebrating even a half a kilo gone, or a new 2 centimeters gone. So using other tools to help the mindset stay positive and can do was things like, instead of using the number on the scale all the time, clothes. How do my clothes fit? And whenever I came against a challenge, such as not being able to do as much exercise as I want, or life got in the way and I didn't exercise all the time, I used a mindset of, you know what? This week I did exercise once. Okay, I didn't do it 5 times, but I did it once, and that's a win. But that took a lot of work, a lot of energy, and using tools such as a journal helped, supporting people in my life. So having people that actually supported me the way I required them to, not the way they thought they should. That was a bit of a challenge as well. And then there was also the fact that I went on and did other study, which really helped me to stay on track. And being ADHD, I could use those skills as well of hyperfocus. Like, I'm doing this and I've got this energy. But mindset is so hard because we play records of the past. So it does take a big lot of energy and shift to move forward from that. But it is possible. You can do it.
What's some advice you could offer our viewers?
Well, the first thing is to really watch the words that you use around your choice of when it comes to weight release. I use that a lot because it's actually empowering. And the other thing that I would get you to think about is, why is it that you want to release the weight? Like, is it because you've got a medical condition and your doctor says you have to? I mean, valid point and good advice, so please follow it. But are you wanting to do it because you've got an ideal image in mind of, oh, I want to be an amazing size 10 and have this amazing body? Not saying it's not possible, but the reason and the motivation behind why it is you're choosing, so once again, that's a choice, not a need, is so important. Because if you sit back and do this for someone else, if you choose to change your food habits, change your exercise habits, and you're doing it for someone else, it won't work long term. So really come from heart space, check in with yourself as to what's important for you and why you really want this. And then get the right people around you, such as a coach that's going to empower you. But each person's individual needs should be met for them, because one diet doesn't fit all, one exercise program doesn't fit all, and it's really important that you get your mindset right. So working with a coach that will empower you and listen to you, same as getting the right personal trainer. It's important to have the right support, the right motivation, and do it for the right reasons.
That's such empowering information, Jacqui. If you'd like to know more about the 3 easy steps to weight release and Jacqui Grant, please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And that's all for us today. We'll say bye-bye until next week. If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.